without any further ado, I'm going to punch out, and Olivia is going to take over and have an awesome day. I'll be checking in with you at the end of this one. See ya.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, and welcome to Holiday Unwrapped with Facebook. My name is Olivia Bauer. I am an account manager at Facebook, specializing in e-commerce businesses. I work primarily with small to medium-sized businesses that are focused on growth. So today we're going to be going through some content from Facebook that's going to be around some different insights that hopefully will help you to inform your holiday 2020 strategy, since this year has been very unusual given a whole slew of factors. So we have a lot of content to cover. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. So getting started here. So over the past few years, we've stressed the growing importance of mobile across the holiday shopping journey. So these charts are showing data from 2016 to 2019. And we've seen that over time, looking at both mobile and in-store, focusing here on mobile, we've seen an increase not only among discovery on mobile, but also research and purchases have gone up increasingly through 2019. Discovery was up about 24% from 2018 to 2019, research up about 21%, and purchase up 24% as well. And while we've seen this growth on mobile, we were also seeing a lot of in-store growth as well, or at least consistency there. Again, looking through 2019 specifically. Based on 2019 census data, we know that around 89% of retail sales still happened in store last year. However, things are a little bit different this year, given COVID and quarantine. Different regions throughout the US and the world are still sheltering in place. So we have to consider the fact that people want to reduce the amount of time that they're going to be spending in store this year, and even avoiding stores altogether during this holiday season. Many people are going to be rethinking their shopping habits. So 31%, around a third of adults surveyed, plan to shop more online for delivery or pickup because of COVID-19. However, when we talk about pickup, we're talking about buying online and picking up in store. So this is something that's going to inform strategies for this year as well, and Facebook's recommendations for how to approach Q4 this year. One other thing to note, eMarketer predicted that buy online and pick up in-store sales will grow approximately 60% year over year in 2020, which nets out to about $58 billion. So this is a huge opportunity to break into this as an option for your conversions and purchases online. So, as you all know, I'm sure you're all thinking about this, holiday is still a must-win regardless of what's going on with the pandemic in the world generally, socially, all of those things. There are still so many opportunities, and in fact, some new opportunities for your mobile strategy to help drive growth across channels. The disruption to businesses and shifts in consumer behaviors, as a direct result of the pandemic, have really changed the planning cycle. So we're going to be talking a lot about how we can kind of counter that. So I'm going to be taking you through 5 insights to help you successfully adapt to the 2020 holiday season. Through Facebook IQ research, we've identified some long-term consumer behavior trends to help inform you as you're building your holiday plans this year. And they create an opportunity for you to adopt new strategies to meet customers where they are based on their behaviors during this very unprecedented time. So we're going to go ahead and jump into these insights. So, over the course of this year, we've seen a shift in the way that people perceive the value of goods and services. So, it's no longer just about the price and the product, it's really about this broader concept of value associated with positive actions. And we're calling this the new value equation. So, three things to consider here: affordability, authenticity, and action. We're going to go into that a little bit more. About that equation. But before we do, we just want to sort of acknowledge that this has just been a crazy year. And that is really what's spurring this change in consumer behavior. On January 2nd, CNN posted an article titled 20 Things to Look Forward to in 2020, which included things like the Summer Olympics, new blockbuster movies, the US presidential election. But we've seen so much change since then, including social movements, the pandemic, of course, which is very present in everyone's minds. And people are looking to institutions, to brands that they trust, for empathetic and moral leadership. So sharing your values here is really what people are looking for. And we've seen that this has a huge impact on your business and your bottom line, truthfully. So people surveyed, 61% state that how well a brand responds to this crisis will have a huge impact on their likelihood to buy from the brand, not just now, but in the future. So this isn't just some, assumption about how people feel about brands. This is founded in data. And the second piece of this is 76% of people surveyed agreed brands should suspend normal factory production to help produce essentials. That second stat was taken back in March. So this is not a recommendation to halt your production and start, making masks. But what it is really recommending is, come to your customers, lead with empathy with them, tell them you understand what's happening, acknowledge the situation around them. And that really goes a long way in creating brand loyalty. So sharing your values shouldn't conflict with your holiday messaging. So that's going to be really the headline here. Shoppers want brands to be authentic. So during the holiday season, it's more important to people than hearing about the latest deals, but you have to say it in a way that feels authentic to your brand. We're going to get into some ways that you can do that. But just some interesting information here around kind of what the expectation is around real, authentic, informative content relative to offers. So you're going to want to have at least some category of your holiday advertisements featuring offers, but you also want to explore some of these other avenues, at least organically, to really build that brand loyalty and ensure that you're maintaining your base and prospecting to new customers. So the idea is that people are thinking about value in a more nuanced way when they buy products. So the new value equation still includes affordability. So that's why you definitely still want to include offers, but we have to be sure that products are competitive on price, the way that you always probably do when thinking about holiday. We should be speaking out on issues that align to each of our brand's own values, but that don't seem tone deaf, right? So ensuring that we're acknowledging what's going on, saying authentically where we stand on an issue. A lot of brands do shy away from taking, a brand stand on certain things, and this isn't to say that you should, break that historical behavior and suddenly stand for something that, you historically haven't. But it's just to say that, the pandemic and the situation that we're in right now is really top of mind for everyone. People want to feel that the brands that they support are in it with them. And there are a few different ways that we can do this. Taking action authentically is going to be a really big one. So you can see, you can use brand marketing to highlight how your company supports your local community or the community nationally, globally, et cetera. If there are things that you do, for example, if 5% of profits are going to a charity that you're passionate about. If there's any kind of philanthropic work that your organization does, even if it's on the side, don't be shy about featuring that. If it's something that you're doing, you want to highlight it, since if you're doing it, it's probably very authentic to the brand and the causes that you care about. So an example on the right, different ways that you can use formats across the Facebook family of apps. Here you're seeing an Instagram story with a donation sticker. That's something you can do not only to showcase what matters to your brand, but also to promote sort of community engagement and involvement among your customers. Inviting people into the conversation is another huge part of this. We want to encourage people to engage and interact around the issues that your brand cares about. Stories, polling ads are a really good way to do this. And on the right here, we have a great example from Black Friday of last year. Little Mistress is a European clothing brand that increased sales by 94% by focusing on products that aligned with their values. So they're talking about sustainability, something that matters a lot to them as a company, and something that apparently matters a lot to their fan base as well. So something to keep in mind when you're building out sort of your creative messaging for holiday, be it organic, paid, and really across all of your marketing mix. A couple creative thought starters here. There's a lot of info on this page, but I just want to give you sort of a high level overview here. Just some thought starters. The first is partnering with a service oriented business, or if you are a service oriented business, partnering with a business that sells products, finding a way to collaborate as much as possible, creating that sense of community, even when we're not necessarily all in person right now. It allows a lot of cross-marketing and promoting. You can drive relevance, support at the local level. It's a good way to kind of feature that sort of online community. And on the right-hand side here, we have around holiday compassion, leveraging creative formats to highlight driving social good. So similar to the examples we saw on previous slides, highlighting transparency and social good. If you're donating a certain amount of profits to an organization, or you're doing some sort of, corporate kind of level philanthropy, that's something that's always going to be great to highlight. On to insight number 2. So Gen X and boomers are driving global mobile and e-commerce growth. There's a little bit of a misconception about this that I hear frequently from my advertisers, which is that mobile users typically skew very young. In the past, that may have been true, but what we're seeing now is that Gen X and boomers are actually growing in the mobile space faster than any other demographic group. So some really interesting kind of statistics here. Again, looking across discovery, research, and purchase. So across the entire customer journey, there is sort of a two pieces to this misconception. One, that Gen X and boomers are simply not on mobile doing anything of this sort at all, or that there's pausing after the discovery phase and shifting to desktop for research and purchase. That's just no longer true. Partially due in part to changing the changing ecosystem based on the pandemic, but also just generally speaking, more people are on their phones these days. So we're seeing that boomers specifically have seen double or even triple digit growth across discovery, research, and purchase, as you can see here. The COVID-19 pandemic, like I mentioned, has further accelerated this growth. Prior to the pandemic, about 82% of Gen X, 78% of boomers were shopping online in the US. With physical distancing measures, those numbers have jumped to 91% of Gen X and 83% of boomers. So we're seeing growth even just in the past 6 months or so. In addition to this, 2 out of 5, or around 44% of Gen X and boomers, plan to continue this behavior by shopping more online since the COVID-19 pandemic. And one thing I want to flag here too is that when we're talking about holiday, we're going to be spanning, the actual traditional Q4 holiday season, and then talk a little bit more for, non-traditional Q4 advertisers around how to sort of shift that timeline back to scale during that dead zone between Christmas and the new year, so that you can hit Q1 with a running start. So keep in mind that this doesn't just apply to the holiday season, this is generally, but it makes it even more important depending on what season is most important to your business and your bottom line. So this year, we anticipate Gen X and boomers to rely even more heavily on technology. Typically, people who don't even shop much just generally throughout the year are still going to be standing in line at 4 a.m. for Black Friday sales, things along those lines, and also shopping for Cyber Monday online. We're expecting to see people lean into this even more, especially given the fact that there's so much growth anticipated around this buy online and pick up in store kind of trend. We're going to see a ton of this. So we want to make sure that, especially given some of these really large retailers are sort of pulling back or pulling out of their brick and mortar plays for the Cyber 5 time, want to make sure we have our mobile and online strategy totally ironed out before that happens and they start entering the market as well. Boomers are also connecting more with businesses via messaging. So 70% of boomers surveyed said they messaged a business during the holidays more in 2019 compared to 2018. I'm sure you see the trend here. We expect that number to be even higher this year. And I think given the fact that they're going to be buying online and purchasing in store, we have to start thinking about ways where we can create that in-store experience in a way that is online. So things like messaging. So you can use a chatbot or canned responses in order to tailor the experience that someone has shopping online. If they have a question about a product, a question about shipping, anything that your customer service does, I know a lot of your businesses likely have call centers and actual dedicated customer service teams. Making sure those things are available online through platforms like Facebook and Instagram is a really great way to, make sure you're not leaving anyone sort of out in the cold when they have questions. So here's where it gets a little bit trickier. There's obviously going to be a ton of presence online during this time, but we also have to make sure that we're setting them up for success. So similarly to how we're talking about messaging around ensuring that you have those structures set up in order to meet your customers where they are, that applies throughout the entire customer journey. So it's not just that discovery or consideration phase, it's the whole thing. And 66% of Gen X and boomers surveyed experienced problems while shopping on mobile. What we're calling that is friction. So essentially it's friction in the shopping process somewhere that typically leads to a drop off in conversion because people abandon the page, they don't have a good experience, they don't come back sometimes. We want to make sure we're avoiding that as much as possible. So we're going to get into some ways to do that. The insight here is since these specific generations or demographic groups are driving global mobile and e-commerce growth, that's a mouthful, we want to make sure that seamless shopping is available for them. Seamless shopping matters for every demographic. Age is sort of irrelevant when it comes to this. However, since these older generations, not old, but older generations are newer to the mobile space in terms of shopping, it's even more important for them than it is for everybody else. So some different ways we can go about doing this. So easier communication, bringing the expertise of your in-store staff to mobile via messenger experiences. Like I mentioned, it's a really good idea to just have this available. And we've seen for companies who've tried this in the past, for example, Happy Socks, they saw a huge increase in return on ad spend for their Christmas campaign because they had all of the information at the ready for their shoppers throughout to give them that same kind of in-store experience. Easier purchasing is going to be another piece of this. So making ads shoppable. So two things we'll highlight here are collaborative ads and multi-retailer add to cart. A couple examples here for you. L'Oreal on the left. Basically, this is a collaborative ad. It allows a brand to partner with a retailer and run ads from their product catalog. So you can see the actual video ad itself, and below you see those catalog items, allowing the brand to optimize their investment against purchases on the retailer site, improved ROI significantly. So you can see 55-point lift in online sales for L'Oreal on Lazada. And on the right, we have Reese's. So this is a multi-retailer, and you'll see here when it loads, multi-retailer add to cart ad, which can be created with a Facebook marketing partner. McMac is an example of one that does it, and their brand is up on the slide there. These ads let your brand use add to cart buttons for multiple retailers. So if your product exists within multiple spaces, you can ensure that someone has a bunch of options for where they can go to purchase. Especially for those two, to add on to that quickly, for those who are going to be buying online and purchasing in store, that's going to be really, really clutch for them, given they may have a preference for Target versus Walmart if your product exists in both places. And that's a good segue into easier pickup. So making sure you're giving shoppers a stress-free pickup experience in store or curbside by letting them know what's in inventory at their local store, and then targeting ads to drive BOPIS, which is buy online, purchase or pickup in store conversions, which will be excellent for last minute shoppers. There are so many different archetypes when we think about who is actually shopping when and how, all of these behaviors. We have to make sure we're taking a really holistic view when we're building out our strategy in order to not leave anyone on the table, essentially. So dynamic localized ads with local store details are here on the left. So this will be really helpful for, details about actual local stores for people who do want to go pick up. Say they want to order something online, they don't actually know when the hours are, and they don't want to go search for it. Your ad will be localized so that people around that location will get the information that they need without really having to put in any effort. And then pickup custom pixel parameter is kind of an interesting one as well. Oops, let me go back here. Particularly non-essential retailers that have been closed for a long time, trying to get, right size on inventory and clearing goods from stores. This will help to sort of adapt to that, to ensure that the actual products that consumers are looking to purchase are in stock at the stores that they're going to. So kind of customizing the catalog in that way. And then we have easier shopping. So helping people shop where they're browsing products today. So a thing we talk about at Facebook a lot is meeting your customers where they are, wherever they are. So across all of the different, Facebook family of apps, from organic to paid, people exist and behave in different ways across a whole lot of different placements. And so when we think about shopping, there's a whole nother level added to that, because we have sort of organic commerce products like shops, in addition to things like dynamic product ads that are going to feature products from your catalog. So what we're seeing here is Facebook shops and Instagram shops. So essentially what this allows you to do is create posts that, your shop houses your products or your catalog that you connect from Facebook, and it allows people to shop directly on your page. So this is it's relatively new. It was announced earlier this year. It's a digital storefront for people to access with really a unified user experience across both Facebook and Instagram. You're able to message businesses through WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram direct to get support, track deliveries, all of that stuff. So Creating a Facebook shop is free and it's very straightforward. Any seller, regardless of your size or budget, you can bring your business online and connect with customers, like I said, wherever, whenever. Where it's most convenient for them. And the shop is fully customizable. So this is organic and available to everybody. So there's no kind of like budget minimum or anything along those lines. This is just a really easy way to feature your products on your page and create a nice sort of dynamic offering that includes both, brand awareness from your organic feed just generally, and then also some lower funnel sort of actionable items through the shop itself. And some different ways to be kind of thinking about this. So in addition to visiting your shop from your Instagram profile or Facebook pay through a new dedicated CTA button that is available, people can also discover your shop through stories, through product tags, and through ads. So you can see one of each of these examples here. Starting soon, you'll be able to drive visits to collections via swipe ups in Instagram stories as well. So you can see in the center at the very bottom, I don't know if you can read it, the font's a little small, but it says view the collection. So this is coming soon, and the collection will basically drive to products within your catalog that are within a given product set. Some creative thought starters here. So again, a lot on this page, but just want to give you some things to sort of think about when we're talking about this kind of trend and this specific insight. So firstly, holiday gift guides to help navigate online shopping in a way that feels more like real life shopping. So this is a really nice way to personalize a shopping experience. Physical shoppers are becoming digital shoppers, like we've seen in store is going to probably drop off a lot this year and move online and especially onto mobile. So how can we help people in a very mobile focused way to have a similar experience and a really positive, fun experience? Gift guides are a great way to do that. Some things that you could potentially include: FAQs around gift wrapping, or buy online, pick up in store options or instructions, just to make it easy, to make it fun. The second is around new life skills. So I'm sure, I picked up, baking and a bunch of other kind of odd hobbies during quarantine. I think that's pretty common. I know I saw banana bread trending for probably 3 months when all of this began. So there's a lot of that. So think about leaning into that. So when you think about your creative messaging, acknowledging the situation everybody is in, making it a little playful, adding some levity to it. Things you can consider is just, tailoring your canned responses or your chat bot in Messenger to be a little more playful and to really touch on some of those new interests. It's just an easy way to really connect with your audience. And then lastly, seasonal combinations with collection ads. So as you can see in the graphic here, kind of featuring that ad at the top, like we saw on a previous slide, and then additional, usually related products below. Partnering as a CPG brand or a retailer, like we're seeing in here, we're seeing CPG focused with Carrefour, just to create some kind of seasonal combos. So food packages with everything for some sort of like meal that you're going to make with your family, or cocktail mix packages, things that are just going to be tailored to different audience groups within your target market, to just, again, make it playful, make it fun, make it feel a little less stiff given we're all online. On to insight 3. So self-gifting and seasonal shopping can be positive outlets in difficult times. I think a lot of us probably joke about retail therapy. I know I've probably spent more money on clothing and silly things that I really don't need during this time, more than really ever before. And it kind of does help. That is the same during holiday as it is during any other time. And this isn't new to COVID or the pandemic either. We see people rewarding themselves during difficult times, but we also see people shopping for themselves during holiday just normally every year. But coming back to this sort of difficult times narrative, if we look back to the last recession in 2008, we see people actually spend more than they have previously on items that we like to call affordable luxuries. So things like nail polish and sweet treats, things that you wouldn't typically buy, but it makes you feel better to have it to treat yourself. I know we live in a time of self-care culture, so that's really leaning into that kind of feeling. And when we look at content posted to Instagram during the 2019 holiday shopping season, we've seen a spike in people posting about these little luxuries or affordable luxuries and self-gifting. So like I said, this isn't new to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's probably going to be exasperated by it. So it's, exacerbated, excuse me. It's going to be way more intense this year than it has been previously, because people are not only looking to shop for themselves all the time, but now there's a layered level of stress that they're trying to, retail therapy away. So something good to keep in mind. It's always a time people see that's good to self-gift. We've seen 59% of adults surveyed research gifts for themselves across the holiday period. I know I'm guilty of this. I typically buy for myself during Cyber 5 and then wait until the week before Christmas to buy for my family. Don't tell them that. But it's just a really good thing to keep in mind, because we're always really focused on, okay, gift giving and how can we be thinking about promos for gifts or gift guides and things like that, which are excellent and absolutely need to be created. You have to tap into that part of the market, but you don't want to leave the self-gifters out either, because there's going to be an even larger market than usual for them this year. And when it comes to shopping, they're actually just as likely to buy for themselves. So we're looking at about 50-50, right? So 50% of people who are going to be gifting for others, and the other half are going to be gifting for themselves or buying for themselves. So these can be positive outlets in difficult times: self-gifting, seasonal shopping. Feels good to buy things for others as well. So that factors into this too. And what we're talking about in terms of the opportunity here is what we're calling discovery commerce. So helping people discover gifts that they'll love for others, for themselves, using the power of machine learning and automation. Few ways we can do this. What this means is connecting the right product to the right person before they search for it. So when you think about your larger marketing mix, search platforms are a pull sort of device, whereas Facebook is going to be a push. So it's an excellent platform for prospecting for that reason. And this really is exactly what that is. So prospecting. So I don't know about your product. I don't know about your brand. I don't even know that I have a need or a want for it until you show me what that need or that want is. So we'll talk a little bit more too about, generally speaking, how to approach creative and some exercises you can go through. But think about this generally as a big prospecting push, particularly in the time leading up to your deals, to ensure you're building out your upper funnel as much as possible. Like I said, lots of ways we can do this, starting with automatically matching intent. So using signals and machine learning to let your products find interested people before they discover your products. The best way to do this is through dynamic ads for broad audiences. So if you're not familiar with dynamic ads for broad audiences, also known as DABA, you may be familiar with DPA, or just generally dynamic product ads. We typically refer to DPA when we're talking about retargeting in dynamically. This is going to be the prospecting version of that. It works basically the same, leverages user behavior, user interests based on what they've been looking at, what they've been talking about. And it's going to pull items from your catalog to deliver a super personalized, super tailored ad to them, even if they've never seen your brand before. We see typically that there's around 22% greater lift in acquiring new buyers for clients, and a 13% lower cost in acquisition when using data. So it's not just about ensuring that you're breaking into these segments that you previously haven't broken into before. It's also, driving real business results for you, and ideally bringing down your costs during a time when prospecting can be a little more expensive given how many people are on the platform. Automatically going global. So we've talked a lot in the last year at Facebook, internally and externally, about cross-border business and what the opportunity is for our advertisers in leveraging these products. A lot of these products have become a lot more sophisticated in the last couple of years, and a couple to highlight here, which I've seen a lot of success with my clients in using: dynamic language optimization with auto translate, and multi-language and country dynamic ads with localized catalogs. Those are very long names, so I'm just going to briefly explain what each of those mean. Dynamic language optimization essentially leverages the actual geolocation of a user and whatever language they have programmed in their Facebook account to use, and it automatically will translate to that language based on those two parameters. So essentially, you don't have to go through and change a bunch of different ads. You can tailor them. So I don't know if you can see the details in this graphic, but it shows the option to add languages, and you can go in and tailor the ads differently, but it'll create essentially a default template for you to leverage so that you can actually be advertising more efficiently and effectively globally. The second one is essentially just allowing you to use dynamic ads globally without having to recreate everything in every single language that you're going to be advertising to. So does this in a really automated way. Some recommended actions, and these are things that we've started to cover a little bit more: helping people discover the things that they love. We've talked about DABA. Dynamic product ads for retargeting is also a huge part in this. So when you think about if you've used dynamic ads before or not for retargeting, it's something that's a really good idea to try during the holiday season, given how high intent is and how personalized this is. So if I, for example, go onto a shoe retailer's site and I'm looking at a pair of boots, and navigate away from that page, and that retailer is, for example, advertising on Facebook, and they have an audience target that's for people who've viewed content in the past 30. I don't know if I cut out there for a moment. Let's see. Okay, I think we're back. So like I was saying, for dynamic product ads for retargeting, I would be put into a pool of people who would then be targeted with items like those boots that I viewed, along with other related products. So think about dynamic for your entire strategy, all the different tactics you're leveraging, from prospecting to retargeting, even to loyalty. If you want to cross-sell or upsell a higher priced product set, things along those lines. The second piece is getting a little more futuristic, talking about AR technology. I believe you guys either already have covered AR, or maybe that's upcoming in the schedule. AR is something that, you know, some of my clients are just barely starting to kind of dip their toes into, but this is really what we think is going to be the future. People want to try before they buy. And in a world where most of shopping is happening online, it's going to be really crucial that we have, you know, availability for things to be tried on, you know, for lack of a better term, through AR ads. Things like trying on glasses, so showing your face and having the glasses essentially put onto your face virtually. Some creative thought starters here, gifts for you. So thinking about creative inspiration, things like polling, instant experiences. Polling ads can help create engagement with shoppers, asking questions about tastes, preferences, making it really personalized. That's, obviously a common theme here. And then on the other side, the shopping hunt. So going back to the idea of AR or VR ads, being sure that, if you have these kinds of assets available, that they're going to be, you're making it fun. It's essentially like an Easter egg hunt or something along those lines, where I can say I'm considering buying a new desk. I can literally use my digital device to look at what it's going to look like in my own home virtually. On to the fourth insight. Imposed disruption fuels receptiveness to new products and services. So millions of people are trying new behaviors and products globally. 1 in 3 adults surveyed indicate they've used a new product or a brand during the COVID-19 pandemic, similar to some of the other trends we've talked about in statistics we talked about a little bit earlier. People are exploring new products during the holidays as well. So this is kind of two-sided. We're seeing just generally the percentage of holiday shoppers surveyed who say they explore new products during the holidays more than the rest of the year is huge. You can see that number is increasing slowly over the years. And discovery of new products is going to be very different this year, since there's less sampling, less just walking through the mall or walking through a store. It's going to be online. So we have to figure out how exactly we can tailor this experience to meet people where they're at, which is online. So the insight here, like I said, imposed disruption fuels an openness to try something new. The opportunity is really to spark connection by partnering with trusted voices who are close to your audience to deliver a message. So thinking about your own marketing, consider working with creators to get your message across, or influencers, however you want to label them. Unlike in the past, when partnerships with creators were a little bit more uncertain, branded content ads partnerships, which is a Facebook and Instagram product, they allow you to amplify your branded content to the people that you want to reach, and evaluate the effectiveness of your advertising with them. So it's just a more tried and true way to partner with a third party. We see an example from Suave here. They were developing a line of natural hair products, and they knew authenticity was going to be key for marketing this new product line. So they partnered with a well-known Black beauty influencer to create branded content. You can see they saw 11-point lift in ad recall, 6-point lift in purchase intent. Partnering with empowering AR. So this isn't going to be possible for everyone, especially probably not this year, given if you're not already working on some of these assets, they can be a bit of a lift, but it's never too soon to start thinking about holiday 2021 for these kinds of assets and doing some testing throughout early 2021 as well. So you can see an example of what exactly this looks like using 360-degree ads or AR assets, or things like try on, like you can see in this Coach ad. Creative thought starters here. People have clearly begun investing heavily in grocery delivery, but delivery doesn't just apply to groceries, of course. So click to messenger or WhatsApp ads that allow people to sign up for notifications when delivery is convenient for them, or when convenient time slots become available, is a really great best practice. If you're, in the food or beverage delivery kind of service, there are going to be a lot of other sub verticals that will be this will be relevant for as well. And then live shopping at home. So ensuring that you're leveraging Facebook and Instagram Live with sales experts to offer advice, demos, entertainment, etc. And the last insight here. Economic downturn may expedite the rise of mega sales. So you may have noticed throughout the presentation, I've mentioned mega sales a couple of times. This is not necessarily a new concept, but it's something that's just going to be even bigger this year. So we talk internally a lot about Cyber 5, and I think that's a term that probably everyone is familiar with. It's really the days around leading up to and after Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Sometimes it expands, long outside of those actual 5 days. But people are, very high intent in terms of shopping during this time. And what we've seen, generally speaking, during the pandemic is people have expected their finances to be negatively impacted. And a lot of people have pushed off big purchases until they go on sale, right? So they're usually waiting for Cyber 5 sales. And so we're seeing just a huge rise in this idea of mega sales. So most people surveyed, like I said, delayed purchases. So you can see at the bottom on this bar chart, the different, purchases delayed due to the outbreak. So you can see cars, clothes, smartphones, some of these other categories as well. And that's 68% of people. So we're seeing a very large portion of the market that's essentially just waiting for sales, for things to go on sale. 48% of people surveyed who delayed tech purchases will wait for promotions. And of course, Cyber 5 is a great time for that. Luxury purchases are in a similar boat with 44% of people. So when looking to the holiday shopping season, price was already a top consideration, followed by things like product availability and choice and free shipping, things along those lines. So we're really going to be considering sales as a really important thing to highlight, more so than ever before in previous holiday seasons. I will caveat that by saying, like we covered before, this doesn't mean this is the only category you should be tapping into, but it's really important that you're featuring this and you're ensuring that you are providing all of these different decision factors in your different creative messaging on your site to ensure consistency across everything as well. So looking at last year during this time, so from October 1st on the left there through January 1st of this year, 2020, we see spikes. So 11/11 or Singles Day and 12/12, you see smaller spikes with huge spikes around Black Friday and Cyber Monday. We're anticipating now, there's already been kind of a blurred line between Black Friday and Cyber Monday historically, just because some retailers are online more, some are brick and mortar, some are doing both. This year, it's going to be so much more heavily skewed online. So people are likely we're going to see spikes that are probably even higher than this in terms of actual sales volume. And these folks are likely to be high spenders and mobile first. So we think a lot about, just general conversion volume, ensuring our costs are low, but also thinking a little bit more holistically at things like average order value or even lifetime value, where things like dynamic product ads can help you cross-sell or upsell folks with higher price point items. Compared to people who don't shop during mega sales shoppers surveyed in the US are 73% more likely to be high spenders, which makes sense, right? Given the fact that they're waiting all of this time to buy a ton of stuff that is going to be cheaper for them overall. But large average order values in the moment. 55% more likely to purchase on mobile. I know that's true for me. The morning after Thanksgiving, I'm sitting on the couch and scrolling my phone and purchasing things, usually for myself, sometimes for my family. But just keep that in mind, that everything, your creative assets, the way that your site looks, the after the click experience should all be optimized for mobile in order to maximize this super high intent from these high spenders. We can't forget, of course, that 2020 is an election year. So there's already a lot happening this year. An election layers something additional on that. eMarketer predicts that 6.23 billion will be spent on political advertising in 2020. We're, of course, already in the throes of that. The majority will be on traditional TV. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Hopefully put you at ease a little bit. The heaviest ad spend period will be in the 3 months leading to election day. Obviously, we're well within that in really the latter half of that. This will coincide with marketing campaigns to drive awareness and consideration leading into Black Friday and Cyber Monday. This is just a reminder that competition can be really fierce during this time. So you want to start early in terms of when you start prospecting, when you start building awareness, even doing previews of your sales, saying, hey, we're going to have a sale in 2 weeks that's going to be 60% off, this big mega sale, or it's buy one, get one free or whatever, doing things to tease people and ensure that you're in their mind as soon as those actual sale days come around. We also know that on Facebook, people will be posting about the elections across our platform. So something to keep in mind, we typically see CPMs rise during this time of the year just because there are more people online who are advertising, more advertisers putting dollars into the platforms. This adds another layer to it, like I mentioned before, but this is really more on the organic side. So something to keep in mind, and I know some of my advertisers have seen this, that, you know, they're getting a lot of impressions, but people aren't necessarily online to shop during an election period. So just be really mindful about that. And whenever possible, keep your marketing as stable as possible leading into the Black Friday, Cyber Monday time. What we don't want to see is for advertisers to pull way back during this time because they're not seeing the volume that they expect, or their CPMs or CPAs are high and they're getting kind of scared of that. For you to pull back, and then when you try and re-enter, it's already super busy for the holiday season. If you can keep yourself established in the platform and in the landscape, that's going to be the best practice throughout this time. And this is really the bottom line here. Heightened political activity isn't likely going to significantly change social media behavior. People are still buying things. Yes, they're talking about the election. Yes, CPMs and CPAs may be a little bit skewed during this time, but that's not entirely unusual given we are really at the, today's the first day of Q4 technically. So we are already in the swing of things. So try not to be too worried about election. Just keep it in mind that it's normal to see heightened costs during this time, potentially lower value. The opportunity here is really to accelerate action through shopper preferences, aligning with them and standing out in a very crowded market. So personalization, mobile first, helps cut through noise. The auction is optimized to deliver the right ad to the right person. So things like dynamic product ads are going to make things super personal for your customers. And you really want to be leaning into those as much as possible. So different ways you can do this. Maximizing sales with automation. A lot of this is going to talk about just basic Facebook principles, things that are going to be considered best practices during holiday, outside of holiday, evergreen. Automatic placements, ensuring that, like I mentioned before, you are meeting your customers anywhere and everywhere where they exist online, be it on Facebook, on Instagram, in feed, in stories, audience network, messenger. There are a whole slew of placements, and you can tailor through placement asset customization which assets should go where, so that you're certain that the ads are looking really good in each placement where they exist. It's a pretty easy lift, and it's a small tweak that makes a big difference in terms of performance. Campaign budget optimization. So this allows for what we call audience liquidity. So if you have your budget set at the campaign level as opposed to the ad set level, you're allowing the system to determine where money goes based on which conversions are the most efficient. And lastly, dynamic ads, which we've talked about quite a bit. They are going to be the most personalized option for ads to be delivered, particularly for retargeting audiences, but now with DABA through prospecting as well. Going live to drive excitement. This is something that's pretty easy, and it's something that, you know, you can create some excitement about before go live with a creator or an influencer, or even someone talented on your team internally, to do a demo, to do some cross-selling or give advice, things along those lines. And then you can transform it into a short video ad. So save the video down. You can cut it up however you want to, depending on the placements you'd like to feature it. It's a really nice and easy way to just kind of diversify your ads. Spreading out demand throughout Q4. So a lot of price sensitive holiday shoppers plan early to take advantage of early deals. Others wait till later. So ensuring that you're really you're spreading out the times when you're present on the platform. It should be pretty consistent throughout the season, with a big push during the actual promotion. Your gift, your deal. So some creative thought starters here, like we've seen with the others. Using creative messaging to make deals feel really personal. So what I would recommend, and I sort of alluded to this previously, do a motivators and barriers exercise when it comes to your creative. So if you've done this before, you should do it again for holiday, because drivers are just going to be different. They're going to be unique during this time of the year. You want to really try and get into the mind of your customer and figure out, okay, what is actually motivating them to, you know, purchase from us? What is potentially deterring them? How do we speak to that in our messaging? Creating different messaging buckets and really leaning into doing testing and iterating to figure out what's working best. Instant shopping network. This is something that's sort of similar to the Instagram live idea, but take some inspiration from infomercials, use a creator, use employee talent, air some live episodes to just get kind of your community connected, and get them excited, especially if you can preview deals for Cyber 5. So to quickly recap on these 5 insights: affordability, authenticity and action, Gen X and boomers, mobile growth, self-gifting and seasonal shopping, receptiveness to new products, and the rise of mega sales. The opportunities here are sharing your values with seamless shopping and discovery commerce to spark connection and accelerate action. One last section for you here. I'm not going to read through everything on this slide, but I wanted to make sure to include this, as this has some more kind of tactical recommendations that I've already touched on to some degree, but wanted to sort of reiterate. So some of these are standard holiday recommendations. Most have a twist to take COVID considerations into account. So starting early, this is going to be huge. For advertisers who are concerned about shipping, we typically talk about scaling a couple weeks prior to Black Friday, and then, you know, considering last ship date is usually around mid-December. Move that timeline up if you can, just to be certain. Make sure shipping is very clear, the times and expectations are set on your site, all of that good stuff, so you know that you're landing in the right time frame for people, given the different considerations around the pandemic. Review holiday 2019 and consider what's changed. So consider testing now during the month of October to figure out, okay, is our 2019 strategy really going to be super applicable this year? What needs to change, etc. For retail, make customer safety your focus. So if you can feature that on your site, if you can feature that in awareness or consideration ads, that's a really good best practice during this time, because if people are going to be coming into your stores, or even there's, you know, drop off, people want to know that you're considering their safety. We always want to plan across the entire customer journey. So looking at the top row here, increasing awareness and discovery through different objectives, different ad formats, placements, target audience, buy type or bid type, optimization, and measurement. So these are all Facebook products that are available to you. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory in terms of, brand awareness objectives for increasing awareness and discovery. But being sure that especially on the lower funnel side, you're leaning heavily into automation where you can through things like catalog sales, which is how we drive to dynamic product ads for retargeting, as well as DABA for prospecting. And this really speaks, that last chart really speaks to the fundamentals of Facebook. So in order for any of these recommendations to work, you really have to have a strong foundation. Liquidity is the heart of that foundation, I would say. So liquidity means a few different things, but at a very high level, it's when the campaign budget is allowed to flow along the most efficient route to fulfill your objective. And there are 5 different parts of this. Signals being the first. So what's getting passed back from your site, what data is getting passed back from your site to Facebook in order to inform the machine learning to optimize properly. Second is audience liquidity, making sure your audiences are broad enough that there's enough opportunity within those audiences for the system to target. And also that automatic placements are on, which brings us to placement liquidity, making sure that you're targeting a really broad pool of people and also meeting them wherever they may exist. Budget liquidity is number 4, which is where campaign budget optimization comes into play. There was the old way of Facebook, which Facebook has evolved a lot, right? And I'm sure you all see that firsthand in your work on the platform. Previously, it worked to be really targeted in terms of like, okay, this ad set needs to spend $100 a day. This one needs to spend 50. Great, done. And then constantly be changing it. With budget liquidity, if you can put it at the campaign level, it's going to be so much better in terms of performance because the system finds efficiency. So unless you have a really strong use case to specify which audiences should be getting more money than others, that's always going to be the way to go with CBO. And lastly is account simplification. So consolidating ad sets where you can, consolidating campaigns where you can, really opting into those foundational measures to ensure that you're really just finding the most efficiency that you possibly can, as opposed to getting super narrow and targeted and manual. Facebook marketing partners are available to support you on any of these things. These are trusted partners that are vetted and verified essentially by Facebook. We have a Facebook partner directory available on our site that's really good to check out if you're in need of support. And we also have blueprint courses that will take you through tips and tricks for advertising, different ways that you can basically improve your strategy. Building awareness, these are all things we've talked about. It's ongoing. You should have always on kind of brand or brand and direct response ads. This should be a heavy consideration for creative. Building great mobile first creative, that creative should be ready for mobile. That includes the assets themselves as well as your website, and reaching new customers with lookalike audiences. Delight and surprise with Facebook stories. Test different ad formats, get a little playful. People want to see some levity these days, lean into that. Work with online creators or influencers to expand reach and create some diversity in your marketing. Measuring your brand campaigns is always going to be important as well. Driving conversion, get the timing right. So make sure, like I said, you're really getting into the landscape early and are prepared for potential shifts in timeline. Focus on creative that helps drive conversions, makes finding stores easier, leverage the store traffic objective if that's relevant for you, and automate using DABA. Remarket, also leveraging the automation and machine learning through DPA for retargeting, and measure your campaigns. That's always going to be a recommendation. And the last thing here, take action after the traditional holiday season. So we want to make sure that even if you are a traditional Q4 advertiser, you want to make sure you don't just immediately pull back spend, ride the wave as long as you can. And for those of you who are more traditional Q1 spenders, it's a good idea to start, keep a steady presence throughout the holiday season, really push on prospecting while others are retargeting so that you can ramp during that dead zone prior to the new year and then hit the ground running for January 1. And with that, I'm at the end of the presentation here. So I know there's a ton of content. There should be a resource available for you all that includes most of what was covered here today. And with that, I will bow out and pass it to the next speaker.
Hey, Olivia, thanks so much. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Absolutely. A lot of topics to cover, super informative. The Slack channel, e-commerce week LA Slack channel is getting bombarded with questions, and I'm sure they'll have more. It'd be great if you could jump in there and answer some of the questions if you have a minute or two.
Cool. Will do. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks so much.